make a difference in this world. You must believe this. You must not listen to those voices. There's a song that I want you to pull up next. It's called Greater, because it talks about that very thing, that here comes these voices every day over and over again, but you must bring up the other voice that says, greater is he within me than these voices that are trying to bring me down. It's so important. My heart just goes out to you right now, because I know there are so many who are dealing with this daily battle of addictions, the daily battles of behavior, compulsive behavior, or behavior that's controlled by the darkness of the past of their life, the hurts of their life. Many, many wounded people out there who these voices are trying to always tear down, and even get them to the point of convincing them that suicide is the only answer. But there is another answer, and that answer is being the tiny one-step seed faith of just doing what I'm telling you to do now. Number one, music. Just listening to these songs have blessed me over and over again and pulled me up out of pits of despair whenever I was down and needed something to bring me up. Bring up that song, Greater. But remember, you are a child, a beloved child of God. You must believe it, and you must declare it. Whenever these voices come your way, you must declare it. I am a child of God. I'm sorry. You're not nesting in my brain. Get out of here. Let's listen to Greater now.
Well, yeah, but by who? There's multiple Greater songs. You got to give me these names.
It does. Greater by Mercy.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry. I should have the names of the people associated with it. I have these lists pulled up on the computer, so I will try to give you not only the
Here we go.
title, but the people who sing it.
All right, here we go. I'll put the list on the...
I love this song. I love it.
Bring your tithe and bring your shame. Bring your guilt and bring your pain. Don't you know that's not your name? You will always be much more to me. And every day I wrestle with the voices that keep telling me I'm not right. But that's alright, 'cause I hear a voice and it calls me every day. When others say I'll never be enough. And greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. In the world. In the world. And greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. Bring your doubts, bring your fears, bring your hurt, bring your tears. There'll be no condemnation here. You are holy, righteous, and redeemed. And every time I fall, there'll be those who will call me a mistake. Well, that's okay, 'cause I hear a voice and he calls me every day. When others say I'll never be enough. And greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. In the world. In the world. And greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the There'll be days I lose the battle. Grace says that it doesn't matter, 'cause the cross already won the war. I'm learning to run freely, understanding just how he sees me, and it makes me love him more and more. He's greater. There'll be days I lose the battle. Grace says that it doesn't matter, 'cause the cross already won the war. I'm learning to run freely, understanding just how he sees me, and it makes me love him more and more. 'Cause I hear a voice and he calls me redeemed. When others say I'll never be enough. And greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. In the world. In the world. And greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. Little things I lose the battle, grace says that it doesn't matter, 'cause the cross already won the war. He's greater, he's greater. I am learning to run freely, understanding just how he sees me, and it makes me love him more and more. My God is greater than he who is living in the world.
Than he who is living in the world. Listening, there's concrete, specific things we must do if we're going to keep those voices out of our heads. And listening to the songs, one of the things that always will pull me into a song is the beat. And it's the type of beat that lifts me up and makes me want to dance, because I have, you just have this, when you got music within you, and hope most everybody does, and even if you don't, make a joyful noise anyhow. But getting up and choosing to do a behavior that is opposite of the behavior that pulls you down, like one person says that no matter how much I pray and everything I do, I just, I am back into addictive behavior. So we have to have a game plan. We have to have in our mind already what I'm going to do when the uninvited guests show up. One of the things that we have in our life right now are these huge amount of hundreds of blackbirds. And they know we have 3 bird feeders out. God was showing me today, as I was shooing them away for the umpteenth time, blackbirds are like those uninvited guests. They will come back as long as we have what attracts them to begin with. So what is it attracts that uninvited guest to come back in? And what, again, do you do to distract or get those blackbirds out of your life and the uninvited guests out of your life? I was thinking about with the that beat of that drum on that song, you're going to have to do some hand clapping, and you're going to have to do some hooping and hollering. And that's what you have to do sometimes to have effective way of getting them out of your head, too, the uninvited thoughts and the behaviors, too, that they can lead to. We have to recognize one of the things that my uninvited thoughts and my behaviors that when I'm going, why, God, why? Why do I do what I do, and why do I still persist in doing it? And everybody has those kind of thoughts, right, Carl?
Yeah. Yeah.
That question, why do I do what I do, and why do I persist in going back to the behavior that I know is not good for me? And that brings us to the next step that you have to make in your life if you really, really want to get those blackbirds and uninvited guests out of your brain and keep them away. They're going to keep showing up. You got to realize that. They're like monkeys in the tree. First of all, you've got to ask yourself this question: do I really want to be well? Which means, am I really willing to do what needs to be done to change? And the first thing you have to do there is to understand I cannot do this on my own. I need the power of God in my life who gives me, and that's our next song, Carl, Amazing Grace. It's not Amazing Grace, the one this is Amazing Grace. This is Amazing Grace.
By whom?
I'm trying to see if I can spot this on the thing. This is Amazing Grace. Phil Wickman. There you go. Phil Wickman. We need the grace of God in our life. to empower us. We need the Holy Spirit in our life to empower us. You can't do this without that power of God in your life. That's facts, Jack. You cannot do it on your own. And even to say, well, I have God in my life and I pray all the time and everything, you still have to take a good look at your life to see what's in there that keeps those blackbirds coming back in. I mean, even the devil will laugh at you in the face when he says, you don't really mean it. You don't want, those blackbirds will know that, you're still putting the food out here to attract us. So what is it in my life that I'm still hanging on to that I need to say, no, not having you? In my own life, computer games that are addicting are not a part of my life. Television shows, I look at them long and hard, and I think, well, I don't need to watch you. Music, too, you have to be careful what kind of music you're listening to. Because if it's the kind of music that's hard and it's got harsh words in it and negative words, don't want to go there. Same way with the movies you choose to watch. And the same way with the people you be contaminating you. To put it bluntly, you want to be in a den full of snakes? Then, if you're going to expect to be free of snake bites, you can't be walking among snakes. Am I making sense, Carl?
Oh, yeah. Well, can I give you a couple quick examples of things I know?
Sure.
Well, okay, so two quick things. One, I'm not going to name names, obviously, but you know who I'm talking about. A woman friend of mine thought, there's nothing wrong with watching horror movies all the time and listening to really dark rock and roll. I mean,
yeah.
Like I listen to normal rock. Elizabeth listens to a mix of stuff. But we look for positive things, and this person kept going, "Oh, yeah, Marilyn Manson's just a joke. It's not a big deal." Blah blah blah. And then they wound up freaking out, asking me to get Elizabeth to help them about dark forces haunting their home. They were terrified after a while, and it's like you can't just mess with this stuff and then think there's no consequences at some point. It isn't a joke.
No,
and
you
then also,
cannot.
And I'll tell you, the other thing is, Elizabeth often warns me, I'm a film critic, and I review for Catholic and for another Christian site, among other things, and I say, God protects me, I'm fine. And most of the time I am. Most of the time it's like water off my back. And it's part of my mission because I can handle going to see the R-rated movies better than some of the other reviewers, and so I get the job done of warning people what's out there, whereas other critics are very reluctant. And and anyway, I handle it from the tough stuff. But I went to something so dark and awful called The Witch 2 weeks ago, and it was so bizarre. It was like The Exorcist level of weird, and I wound up that night having the worst luck getting home. I was trapped for 3 hours trying to get home by bus, and just one thing after another went wrong. It was a freezing night, and I wound up, by the time I got home, I was basically hypothermic, not even kidding, and I wound up having recurring leg infection flare up out of nowhere. I wound up in the hospital for 4 days, and I couldn't. And the thing is, I really believe that the evil of this movie, which I looked it up online later, like, what was wrong with these filmmakers? What's going on with this thing? And it turns out this movie was actually screened for, I couldn't believe this, never heard of this before in my life of any movie, it was screened for the Satanic Church, and they gave it a round of applause and approval. And so it's like, I just saw it. Now I know I generally avoid horror movies, even for the Christian, my job. I'm going to just tell them I don't want it anymore, that stuff. No way.
I'm glad you said that because, Carl, do you realize that we have been having for 3 weeks now?
Yeah.
Trying to shut this show down, interference for 3 weeks and this is since you've come home from the hospital.
Wow. Well,
so we've had to.
The place with holy water, and I just did the crosses again. Oh yeah, I did the crosses right before I ran down to my usual sound guy, and he told me exactly what the sound problem was tonight. It was right after I blessed. So
we were having trouble tonight getting this show on, and Carl's bringing up another fact of what you need to do to keep outer influences out of your life, and that is the power of prayer. That is the power of the sacrament. You know, people they're going, superstition.